Look, I have been a protocol officer for the Galactic Council for 73 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Delegations from gas-breathing methane worlds? Check. Ambassadors who communicated exclusively through interpretive dance? Handled it. That one species that insisted on bringing their emotional support fungus to every meeting? Fine, whatever. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day Ambassador Krill showed up with a human bodyguard. Let me back up. The Vrax Dominion had been threatening war for months. Big, scary, four-armed warriors who had conquered half their sector by simply looking intimidating and occasionally eating their enemies. Literally. The council was, understandably, nervous. Panic might be a better word. Okay, fine, we were terrified. So when Ambassador Krill, a rather unremarkable Felonian with blue skin and too many eyes, requested permission to bring personal security to the peace negotiations, everyone assumed he would show up with a battle mech or maybe a squad of armed drones. You know, something that made sense. Instead, he walked into the council chambers with this. Human. Female. Maybe 5.5 feet tall. Wearing what I can only describe as business casual attire and carrying nothing more threatening than a small bag over her shoulder. Her name was Maya Torres, and she looked like she had just finished a coffee break. The Vrax delegation, led by War Chief Thorax the Bone Crusher, took one look at her and started laughing. Not polite chuckles, mind you. Full, bellowing, table-slapping laughter that echoed through the crystalline. Sorry, through the glass dome chamber. This is your security? Thorax roared, all four arms gesturing wildly. This tiny creature? Ambassador Krill, have you finally lost your mind? Maya just smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made my secondary spine tingle with warning signals. Gentlemen, she said, her voice calm and pleasant. Shall we begin? The negotiations started about as well as you would expect. Which is to say, they did not start at all. The Vrax demanded complete surrender of 3 council systems, mining rights to 17 planets, and a formal apology for something that happened 600 years ago that nobody could quite remember. Also, they wanted lunch. Ambassador Krill remained patient. Too patient, if you ask me. He calmly explained why these demands were, how shall I put this, completely insane. The Vrax responded by pounding the table and making increasingly graphic threats about what they would do to our homeworlds. Through all of this, Maya just stood there, quiet, still, watching. I should mention something about humans that most species do not fully appreciate. They are persistence hunters. Back on their death world, they used to chase prey for days, sometimes weeks, until the animal literally died from exhaustion. Their entire evolutionary history is basically a horror movie from the prey's perspective. And right now, Maya Torres looked very much like a predator waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. Perhaps, Thorax growled, leaning across the table toward Ambassador Krill, we should discuss this in a more physical manner. Your pet human does not frighten us. That is when things got interesting. Maya reached in her bag. Every Vrax warrior in the room immediately grabbed their weapons. Plasma rifles powered up. Energy blades activated. The air crackled with tension and the distinct smell of ozone mixed with fear pheromones. She pulled out a data pad. Gentlemen, she said, tapping the screen a few times, before we continue, I think you should know something. 3 minutes ago, I sent a message to my ship. Thorax snorted. One ship? We have a fleet of 2,000 vessels in orbit. Yes, you do, Maya agreed pleasantly. Well, you did. About 90 seconds ago, my ship executed what we humans call a surgical strike. It has destroyed your flagship, disabled your command vessel, and currently has targeting locks on every single one of your remaining ships. And right now, Maya Torres looked very much like a predator waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. Perhaps, Thorax growled, leaning across the table toward Ambassador Krill, we should discuss this in a more physical manner. Your pet human does not frighten us. Your fleet commander is, at this very moment, receiving a rather strongly worded message about the consequences of continuing this conversation in an unproductive manner. The room went silent. You could have heard a molecule drop. "You are bluffing," Thorax said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Maya tapped her pad again. "Your flagship was the Crimson Death, registration VX 7743. It was positioned at coordinates 447-889-223. Was being the key word. Your second in command just received confirmation. Would you like to call him?" Thorax's face, all three of them, went pale. "How?" he whispered. Maya's smile grew wider. "War Chief, let me tell you something about humans. We are very, very good at two things. The first is making friends." She paused, letting that sink in. "And the second is making examples." And right now, Maya Torres looked very much like a predator waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. "Perhaps," Thorax growled, leaning across the table toward Ambassador Krill, "we should discuss this in a more physical manner. Your pet human does not frighten us. Your fleet commander is, at this very moment, receiving a rather strongly worded message about the consequences of continuing this conversation in an unproductive manner." The room went silent. You could have heard a molecule drop. The silence in that chamber was so thick you could have cut it with a plasma torch and served it for dinner. War Chief Thorax's 4 arms hung limp at his sides, his 3 faces cycling through expressions that range from shock to disbelief to what I can only describe as existential dread. Ambassador Krill, bless his diplomatic heart, simply sipped his water and waited. He had known. The sneaky little Thelonian had known exactly what would happen. This is an act of war," Thorax finally sputtered, but even I could hear the desperation in his voice. The big, scary war chief suddenly sounded like a schoolchild caught stealing snacks. And right now, Maya Torres looked very much like a predator waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. "Perhaps," Thorax growled, leaning across the table toward Ambassador Krill, "we should discuss this in a more physical manner. Your pet human does not frighten us. Your fleet commander is, at this very moment, receiving a rather strongly worded message about the consequences of continuing this conversation in an unproductive manner." Maya tilted her head slightly, like a bird examining a particularly interesting insect. "Is it though? You brought a military fleet to a peace negotiation. We simply ensured the playing field was level. Well, mostly level. Okay, fine, we have the advantage now. But that is sort of the point, is it not?" One of Thorax's lieutenants, a smaller Vrax named Grix who had been silent until now, leaned forward nervously. "How did one ship destroy our flagship? The Crimson Death had shields that could withstand a supernova." "Could," Maya emphasized. Past tense. Funny thing about shields, they work great against energy weapons, particle beams, even kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. But humans, we have this annoying habit of thinking outside the box. She pulled up a holographic display from her pad. "We did not shoot your ship. We hacked it, took control of your own weapons systems, and turned them inward. Your flagship essentially shot itself, repeatedly, for about 15 seconds. Then it stopped being a flagship and started being an expanding cloud of very expensive debris. I felt my translator implant struggle with the concept. The Vrax, a species that had built their entire culture around brute force and overwhelming firepower, had just been defeated by what amounted to clever computer programming and really good timing. That is, Grix searched for words. That is cheating. Maya laughed. Actually laughed. A bright, genuine sound that somehow made the whole situation even more terrifying. "Oh, honey, you have no idea. Humans wrote the book on cheating. We have been doing it for thousands of years. We won wars by pretending to retreat, by hiding soldiers and wooden horses, by convincing our enemies that our sticks could shoot fire and lightning. We are really, really good at not playing fair." Thorax slumped in his chair. All the bluster, all the threats, all the carefully cultivated intimidation just melted away. "What do you want?" "Now we are getting somewhere," Ambassador Krill said cheerfully, setting down his water. "I want, War Chief, exactly what I wanted 3 hours ago. A peaceful resolution. Trade agreements. Mutual defense pacts. Maybe some cultural exchange programs, though I admit your interpretive war dances might need some work. And if we refuse? Thorax asked quietly. Maya shrugged. Then in approximately 4 minutes, every ship in your fleet will experience catastrophic systems failures. Not destroyed, mind you. Just disabled. Dead in space. You and your warriors will float in orbit, eating emergency rations and contemplating your life choices until we decide to tow you home. It will be humiliating. Your enemies will hear about it. Your allies will reconsider their alliances. Your own people will probably elect new leadership. Someone smarter. Someone who understands that the universe has changed. She leaned forward, and her voice dropped to something almost gentle. Or, you could sign the treaty, go home with your dignity mostly intact, and tell everyone you negotiated a brilliant peace deal. Your fleet remains functional. Your warriors remain employed. Your people get access to council trade routes and technology. Everybody wins. Well, except for the arms dealers, but honestly, screw those guys. Thorax looked at his lieutenants. They looked at each other. Grix nodded slowly. Another warrior made a gesture that my translator interpreted as either agreement or indigestion. Hard to say which. Show me the treaty, Thorax said finally. The next 2 hours were actually quite pleasant. Once the Vrax accepted that they were not the biggest predators in this particular jungle, they became almost reasonable. Turns out, most bullies are pretty agreeable once someone calls their bluff. We hammered out terms, signed documents, even shared a meal. Thorax and Maya ended up discussing military tactics over dessert, and I swear I saw the war chief smile. Just once, but still. As the Vrax delegation filed out, significantly more humble than when they arrived, Ambassador Krill turned to Maya. That was exceptional work, Miss Torres. Though I must ask, was there really a ship in orbit? Maya's expression did not change. Ambassador, that information is classified. But I will say this, humans have a saying. Speak softly and carry a big stick. We just prefer our sticks to be invisible until absolutely necessary. I never did find out if that ship was real. Part of me does not want to know. What I do know is this. The war that everyone said was inevitable ended before it began. Not with massive fleets or planetary bombardments or millions of casualties. It ended with one human, a data pad, and 3 minutes of very pointed conversation. Humans, I have decided, are absolutely terrifying. Not because they are strong, though they are. Not because they are smart, though they definitely are. But because they understand something fundamental that the rest of us keep forgetting. The best fights are the ones you never have to have. And if you absolutely must fight, cheat. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.